You know, we all ask ourselves this question. What really makes a life worth living? And it's not just about, a quick hit of happiness. It's about finding a genuine, deep enjoyment in our day-to-day lives. But for so many of us, right, that feeling is always just out of reach, caught between two really frustrating extremes.
And this quote from the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, man, it just nails a feeling that I think we all know. Our jobs, our work lives, are just this constant source of anxiety and pressure. But then we finally get that precious free time we've been dreaming of and we're bored. We feel empty. And that paradox, that's the core problem we're going to dig into.
So here it is, plain and simple. On one side, you've got work, which brings all the anxiety. On the other, you've got your free time, which is supposed to be the relief. But instead, we just get boredom. It feels like we're stuck in this loop. But what if the solution isn't about changing what we do, but changing how we experience it? And that, right there, leads us to this incredibly powerful idea called flow. This is really the secret to breaking that cycle of anxiety and boredom and finding real satisfaction. Okay, so what is flow, really? Well, it's that incredible, almost magical state where you're so deep into an activity that the rest of the world just disappears. It's when you feel your best and you perform your best. And it's because everything, what you feel, what you think, what you're doing, it's all in perfect harmony. Now, flow isn't some accident. It happens in a very specific place. I want you to think of it like a channel, right? A sweet spot right between anxiety and boredom. If the challenge is way too hard for your current skills, you're going to feel anxious. And if your skills are way too high for the challenge, you get bored. Flow, that's the magic that happens right in the middle, where a really tough challenge meets your really high skill level. So, what does it actually feel like to be in flow? Well, imagine this. You know exactly what to do next. You get instant feedback on how you're doing. That little voice in your head, the one full of self-doubt, it's gone. Your focus is total, and time just warps. Hours can feel like they're just minutes. It's a state of complete, rewarding immersion. So, the complete opposite of that beautiful, orderly state of flow is something Csikszentmihalyi called psychic entropy. You know that feeling? It's that mental chaos, that static in your brain when you're anxious or sad or just plain bored. Your attention is scattered everywhere. Flow is the antidote. It brings order back to your mind. Okay, so if flow is the big answer, where do we even start looking for it? Well, let's start with the place we spend, a third of our lives? Our jobs. And this is where we find the first huge paradox in our search for a better experience. And this leads to a really big question. I mean, if you think about it, work should be the perfect place for flow. It's got clear goals, it's got challenges, it's got feedback loops. So why is it that when we're actually there, so many of us are just counting the minutes, wishing we were literally anywhere else? And look, here's that paradox in black and white. You ask people, hey, if you won the lottery, would you quit your job? A massive 84% say no. We get meaning from our work. And yet, in the actual moment, when we're at our desks, that's when we're most likely to say, I wish I was doing something else. It's like we love the idea of work, but we can't stand the day-to-day reality of it. And this data, it shows something pretty wild. When we're at work, look at this. Our concentration and our time and flow are actually really high. But our happiness and motivation, they're in the basement. Now, compare that to what's called active leisure, like a hobby you love. Everything is high. We're happy, we're motivated, and we're in flow. So does that tell us? The problem isn't that work isn't engaging, it's that we're not enjoying that engagement. And this gets to the absolute core of it. It's not about what your job is, it's about how you approach it. So there's this great story about a guy named Joe, a welder in a super loud, pretty miserable factory. Most people there hated it. But Joe, he decided to turn his job into a game, into a craft. He started setting his own little challenges, like making the perfect weld. He found flow right there on the factory floor while everyone else was just miserable. It proves it's all about your mindset, not just the job itself. All right, let's switch gears and talk about the other half of life, our free time, our leisure time. You'd think, okay, if work is a drag, at least we have our evenings and weekends to recharge, right? But here's the thing, we face another test here. And it turns out, we're often just as bad at leisure as we are at work. Yeah, it turns out not all leisure is the same. Not even close. You've got active leisure. Think sports, hobbies, playing music, really connecting with friends. These things challenge you, they build your skills, and they are packed with chances for flow. And then there's passive leisure. This is scrolling on your phone, binge watching a show. These things don't really challenge you, they just suck up your attention. And they can leave you feeling kind of empty. I mean, look at this data, it's really striking. Playing sports or games, you're in flow for 44% of the time. Hobbies, 34%. Now look at watching TV, only 13%. Think about that. The thing we do the most in our free time is actually the least rewarding. So that leads to the obvious question, right? If hobbies and sports are so much better for us, why on earth do we spend 4 times more of our free time watching TV? Well, it all comes down to something called activation energy. See, an active hobby takes effort just to get started. You got to get your workout clothes on, you got to pull the guitar out of its case. But watching TV, you just flop on the couch and press a button. It's the path of least resistance. So we default to it, even though we know deep down it's not going to make us feel great. So all of this, it leads to the ultimate goal. It's not just about finding flow during your weekend tennis match or your pottery class. It's about becoming the kind of person who can generate flow from the inside out, who can turn almost any situation into something rewarding.
And there's a name for this kind of person: autotelic. It comes from the Greek words auto for self and telos for goal. Basically, an autotelic person has a built-in goal system. Their motivation comes from inside. They're not doing things for money or for praise. They're doing it for the love of the doing. Their happiness comes from the process, not just the prize at the end.
And you can actually see this play out in how people use their time. Take a look at these autotelic teens, the ones who find flow easily. Look at how they spend their time. They spend way more of it on things like studying and on active hobbies and sports, the stuff that builds skills. Now, let's contrast that with the non-autotelic teens, the ones who rarely get into a state of flow. They spend way less time on those challenging things. And where does that time go? Boom! Look at that TV number. It practically doubles. They're just constantly taking that path of least resistance, choosing passive TV over active engagement every single time. Okay, so how do we do it? How do we become more autotelic? It's all about building a new mindset. It's a skill you can learn. It means you start by just paying closer attention to what's happening around you. You try to find something interesting in things just for their own sake. And ultimately, it's about learning how to control your own attention, how to reframe boring chores into little challenges, and turn mundane routines into an opportunity for flow.
You know, this quote from Linus Pauling, a 2-time Nobel Prize winner, just perfectly captures this spirit. He said, "I don't think I ever sat down and asked myself, now what am I going to do in life? I just went ahead doing what I like to do. The reward was the work." That's the autotelic mindset right there.
And this brings us to one final, really powerful idea. It's the idea of learning to want to do the things you have to do. Now, this isn't about just giving up and accepting your fate. No, it's about taking total ownership. It's about looking at your obligations and making a conscious choice to find the challenge, to find the purpose inside of them, turning something you have to do into something you choose to do. So I'll leave you with this to think about. What's one routine in your life, maybe something you dread, that you could try to transform into an opportunity for flow? Because the power to reshape your experience of life, it really is in your hands.